Well, let's bring in the BBC's Lyse Doucet, our chief international correspondent, who's live with us from Kabul. Lyse, thanks for joining us. Is it remotely realistic for everyone who wants to leave to get out by the end of the month?
Ros, I love to be able to answer all your questions, but that is one I simply cannot answer. We do not know how many people want to get out by the end of the month. You just heard my colleague Sirkunder Kermani surrounded by people when he went to the gate begging him for help. My mobile telephone, and I'm just one person, of people the world over who are being sent SOS messages every day by the hour. Sometimes I'm receiving them almost every minute. Please, can you put me on a list? Please, can you get me to the airport? Please, my life is endangered. Please give me some advice. As the news spreads that people who don't have a seat on a flight, who don't have a position on a list, are still able to get through, even though I think that's not the case. People are going to the airport just to test their luck because they know this window, as you've been saying, is going to close. And I spent most of the last 24 hours at that airport, both on the military and on the civilian side. And I can tell you, at every single gate, there is a crush of people desperate to get in, to try and get on a flight to anywhere in the world, even though this is such a painful time. So many of the people we met, Ros, broke down in tears that this has happened all so suddenly, all so shockingly, that they don't want to leave. Their lives are here, but they feel that if they ever had the idea, for either for themselves or for their children, to leave, that this is the moment, and that when that window shuts, it may shut forever for them.
And Lyse, we have this desperate situation at the airport, a looming deadline, and now we have the Taliban saying this has to be finished by the 31st of August. Those troops need to go. What's the Taliban saying about what it will do if that doesn't happen?
I think I should also emphasize, Ros, that even though these images, and they are such stark images going around the world of thousands trying to leave, there are millions who will stay in Afghanistan. That's in the double digits of millions. Some because they don't want to leave, others because they simply don't have a way to leave. And so for them, of course, they're much more invested in the future of Afghanistan. And they, of course, want to know what kind of new Islamic emirate the Taliban are establishing. So let me just respond, though, to your question about the August the 31st deadline. That came from Suhail Shaheen. He is the Taliban spokesperson for English media. His job is to reflect the decisions of the leadership. The leaders signed a deal with the United States. The U.S. troops were supposed to leave by May the 1st. And when the U.S.-led NATO forces didn't lead, we heard the Taliban time and again, even after May 1st had long passed, saying that all the forces should have left May the 1st. So the new deadline, which they accepted, is August the 31st. So again, they're saying, we want you to stick by this agreement that we struck with you. Now, do they want to have a confrontation with the United States at the 11th hour? We don't think so. And so while they're officially mentioning the line, we do know that behind the scenes, senior Taliban leaders are talking to the Americans, are talking to other countries about whether or not just a few days more will matter. The Taliban have been very critical of all these people trying to leave the country. They've asked them to stay, so they don't feel invested at all in what's happening in the airport. They don't really mind the chaotic images that are being painted of the Americans, but they do want to be fully in control of their country, and right now their main international airport is in the hands of the Americans.
Lyse, I'm short on time, but I must ask you before you go. You know Kabul so well. You've reported on Outside Source from Kabul many, many times. How has it changed from all of those previous visits to how you see it now?
You know, as when we finally left the airport this morning and went out from such a familiar scene, the airport where you have the picture of the president, which of course last one was Ashraf Ghani, now that's torn to shreds. You have the I Love Kabul sign. Now it's, you know, the one of those every city has with the big hearts. It's still there, but it's surrounded by razor wire and American troops. But you go out and you confront the Taliban, many of them wearing American-issued uniforms, carrying American-made M4 rifles, carrying those exactly the way Americans would teach you. And so that is really jarring. But I was waiting to see the entrance to the airport. I have always seen that as a barometer of what is happening in the city and the country beyond. In November 2001, when we left that airport, as the Taliban were on the run, Kabul was a desolate city in darkness. But year after year, I've seen these thicket of billboards right at the entrance of the airport. First, it was all of the shiny mobile telephones in a country where there wasn't one international telephone line when the Taliban were ousted. Then it was the big billboards of Afghan politicians urging Afghans to vote for them. Then there was huge billboards urging Afghans to be patriotic, to support their Afghan security forces. What are going to be the billboards now, Ross? What will be the main messages on those hoardings as you leave Kabul airport and it says, "Welcome to Kabul"? Today I saw the daily life, the sugarcane juice sellers, the boys with, little tin cans waving incense, buy a bit of positive spirit for a price. And through all these crowds were waving the new flag of Afghanistan, the white Taliban flag.
Lyse, we also appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much indeed. That's Lyse Doucet.